It's another comparison video. We're going to take this store-bought corned beef brisket. We're going to make it, and we're going to put it up against a trimmed brisket that I brined and trimmed myself. We're going to see if there's any difference, if this is worth the time, or if it's better to do it yourself. That's this time on Well, my secondary overhead camera decided to quit filming about 10-12 seconds into to that first opening thing. And then when I turned it off and realized it hadn't been going, I tried to turn it back on to do this part, and it went from 2/3 full to saying it was out of juice. So it's upstairs on the timeout getting charged. So we're going to have to settle for still images overlaid to what I'm talking about right now. The first thing that I didn't do right, and there were bunches of them, I didn't sharpen my knives. So I did a real I butchered these things really bad, and that's not in a good way. I messed it up completely before I finally realized my knives weren't anywhere near sharp enough. Sharpened them, and all of a sudden, woo, it was like cutting through butter. And anybody that's ever that has to do that, has to separate the flat from the point, I really have more respect for them now. I've not done that before, and wow, that's a lot of work. I messed up so many places. Like I said, right there, that's actually really thin. I missed, cut a lot of meat off really thinly. I'm keeping a lot of that because I'm going to slice it up into strips and make faux pho. Faux pho. Faux phi phi faux pho. No, sorry. Faux pho. I know, Vietnamese noodle soup. Well, I just put ramen noodles in it and the beef stock, and then you cut this meat up really thin, and you boil the broth, and you put the really thin meat in there, and it cooks it for you. So at least that won't go to waste. But here is my stack of fat from that brisket, and it's the most massive one I've ever had, because of course I took all of it down to almost no fat, because brined fat doesn't act very well. Now if I take it to pastrami, apparently the fat then starts to melt, or whatever the word is, I can't think tonight. When you smoke stuff, it renders, the fat renders, there it is, the fat renders, and it makes the pastrami even that much better. But since I'm doing corned beef tonight, you want to take as much of that fat off, and so I didn't leave almost any. I mean, there's some in there, but not very much at all. As I said, I got a couple of piles that I've cut here. One of them is the flat, and unfortunately I guess I should have waited to cut it in half. It's only that one from the refrigerator is 3.3 pounds, 3 pounds. This flat I have is like 2.9 pounds. So it's a little bit smaller, even though it's wider because it's thinner. I kind of wanted it thinner because thinner, it takes the brine faster. Brine's in the middle faster the thinner it is. And I'm on a time crunch here because I wanted to get this out before St. Patty's Day. But here is all the point stuff that I have. I don't know if I'm going to take that and turn it into pastrami or not, or if I'm just going to try to hang it on the PBC or pit barrel cooker, hang it on the pit barrel cooker and see if it'll cook there, or I might just throw it in the crock pot and make chili out of it. I don't know. I'll do something with it because that's a lot of good meat. This is, as I said, this other part is the flat, and there's another thin strip on there that I cut, trying to even things out, and that'll once again go to being faux pho. And there's some other here that are questionable if they're even worth working with, but I put them in there anyway. So next step is making the brine. And what is a brine? Well, it's mostly a salt and maybe sugar solution. But for corned beef, it's got some other stuff in it. Now, I'm going lazy. Got some pickling spices from Sprouts, or the local organic store. So it's got, their ingredients on the bottle has got pretty much everything that I wanted in it, except for the cassia or the cinnamon sticks. So I'm going to put some more cinnamon sticks in it. And I also have the most important stuff, the reason I'm doing this so late, it took me a while to get this in. This is pink curing salt. This is not Himalayan pink salt. This is you would not want to put this on your food and stuff. This would make you sick or even worse. This is curing salts. It's actually only about 6.25% nitrates, and then the rest is just regular old sodium. But this is what you use to cure the beef while it's in the brine for that 5 days. This gives it its telltale red color. You don't have to put it in there. It's just, since I'm doing a comparison and the other one from the store has nitrates in it, I wanted to put these in there as well. And I've also read that if you don't put this in there, that this adds some taste to it that isn't there if you don't use it. This is the most important thing, and you have to be very, very careful with how much of this you put into your brine. Basically, you're going to take everything, and you're going to, the salt and the sugar, and I have brown sugar, salt and brown sugar, and you're going to boil it for a little bit just to get it to dissolve. And then you add in all the other spices and stuff, the pickling spice, the cinnamon sticks. You just let it come to room temperature, or even colder, maybe even put it in the refrigerator after it's warmed down some. And then you put it in a 2-gallon Ziploc bag and stick it in something that will, in case it springs a leak, it won't leak all over your refrigerator. And you stick it in the refrigerator, and then you flop it, turn it over every day, so that the brine and stuff gets to both sides and gets moved around and doesn't stagnate. And then after 5 days, for something this thick, you've got corned beef. Well, it's finally time to make the brine. Brine is, as you know if you've watched the turkey episode, is just a salt solution in water. But we're adding a little bit more to this one than that. I'm going to start off with 1 cup of salt. This is going into 2 quarts of water. Then we're going to add 1/2 cup of brown sugar. That's really all you need. That's really all you need for the brine, is those 2 things right there. Now we're going to add the stuff for the taste. So what I have here is 5 tablespoons of the pickling spice mix. What's in the spice mix, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. There's mustard seeds, peppercorns, cloves, allspice berries, bay leaves, and to that there's supposed to be some cinnamon sticks in there, but I don't see them, so I'm adding my own, just breaking it up and dropping it in there myself, because I like the cinnamon taste. On top of that, I'm adding 12 juniper berries and 1/2 teaspoon of ginger. I'm also adding 4 smashed cloves of garlic. Alright, just got to start stirring this up. Do it over high heat until it comes to a boil. Now, until it looks like everything's dissolved. Oh, now we got the most important part. We're putting in 2.5 teaspoons of pink curing salt. This is not your Himalayan salt. This is actually stuff for curing. It's got a 6.25% nitrate in it, and then the rest is all just regular salt. You don't want your kids finding this. They add a little bit of red dye to it to make sure nobody uses it on their steak or whatever, because that could be bad for you. But this is the stuff that will turn the keep the meat red. And actually, it supposedly adds a little flavor too. But if it's not there, you notice it missing. I don't know. I'm not noticing. So since the store-bought stuff has that in it, I'm putting this in it too, so that they both have that red flavor, that red tint to them. Gonna let this heat up. I'm gonna go get a whisk to stir it up, and we'll be back after it comes to a boil. As you can see, we're at a bare boil. Everything should have been incorporated by now. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to add 2 pounds of ice, because we're going to be brining with 1 gallon. We already have 2 quarts in there. 1 pound of ice is a quart. 2 pounds would make 2 quarts. 2 quarts and 2 quarts is a gallon, if my math is right, which it may not be. So here we go. Okay, so we want this cooled down to around 45 to 50 degrees. You don't want the meat to start cooking when you put it in there. Might require being put into the refrigerator for a little bit. And after that, after it gets cooled down, I'll show you how to put it in the bag and what it looks like. Be back in a little bit. The brine finally cooled down enough that we can pour it over the meat. So that's what we're going to do right now. This is what I'm going to use to brine it in the refrigerator. A 2-gallon zip-top bag in a content vessel that should catch any leaks if there are any. So just gotta open up the top now and pour in this goodness without making too much of a mess. That's the secret. It's down and determined to spill. Of course, you want all that in there. So I'll get that in there somehow. I was wondering how to spring a leak, but it seems like a significant amount of liquid in there. And it defeats the purpose if the lid's outside, the zip top's outside the liner. But this is where it'll stay. I'm gonna have to find a bigger one. Of course, this fits perfect. This is where it's going to stay. Every day or so, for the calculator I found online said for this thick, inch thick like it is, and the size of it, shouldn't even have to be more than 2.5 days. So I'm going to go 4 just to be safe. And so every day, flip it over on each side so that it's submerged like it's supposed to be. And after 4 days, it's corned beef. So that's good. But so we'll see you in 4 days. Well, that's it to this part 1 of a 2-part series. In the next part, I'm going to take out the store-bought corned beef, desalinate it overnight, and then I'm going to take both of them and cook them. Then we're going to try them and see if one's better than the other or how it works out. So that's it for this edition of the Gadget Griller.